Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. We're going to go ahead and get started, and everybody else will get in where they fit in. But we're going to get the train moving by Allah's grace. And we're going to begin with our 4 short surahs and go right into our topic for tonight. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billahi wa huwa al-aliyyul azim. Al-Fatiha 4 times. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Maliki yawmiddin. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. Ihdina siratal mustaqim. Siratal ladina an'amta alayhim. Ghayru maghdubi alayhim waladdallin. Ameen. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Maliki yawmiddin. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. Ihdina siratal mustaqim. Siratal ladina an'amta alayhim. Ghayru maghdubi alayhim waladdallin. Ameen. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Maliki yawmiddin. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. Ihdina siratal mustaqim. Siratal ladina an'amta alayhim. Ghayru maghdubi alayhim waladdallin. Ameen. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Maliki yawmiddin. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. Ihdina siratal mustaqim. Siratal ladina an'amta alayhim. Ghayru maghdubi alayhim waladdallin. Ameen. Siratal Ikhlas 4 times. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Kul huwa Allahu ahad. Allahu samad. Lam yalid wa lam yulad. Wa lam yakul lahu kufuwan ahad. Kul huwa Allahu ahad. Allahu samad. Lam yalid wa lam yulad. Wa lam yakul lahu kufuwan ahad. Kul huwa Allahu ahad. Allahu samad. Lam yalid wa lam yulad wa lam yakul lahu kufuwan ahad. Kul huwa Allahu ahad. Allahu samad. Lam yalid wa lam yulad wa lam yakul lahu kufuwan ahad. Suratul Falak, the daybreak, 4 times. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Kul a'udhu birabbil falak. Min sharri ma khalaq, wa min sharri ghasiqin idha waqab, wa min sharri nafathati fil 'uqad, wa min sharri hasidin idha hasad. Kul huwa Allahu ahad. Allahu samad. Astaghfirullah. Kul a'udhu birabbil falaq. Min sharri ma khalaq, wa min sharri ghasiqin idha waqab, wa min sharri nafathati fil 'uqad, wa min sharri hasidin idha hasad. Kul a'udhu birabbil falak. Min sharri ma khalaq. Wa min sharri ghasiqin idha waqab. Wa min sharri nafathati fil 'uqad. Wa min sharri hasidin idha hasad. Kul a'udhu birabbil falak. Min sharri ma khalaq. Wa min sharri ghasiqin idha waqab. Wa min sharri nafathati fil 'uqad. Wa min sharri hasidin idha hasad. Suratul Nas 4 times. Mankind. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Kul a'udhu birabbin nas. Maliki nas ilahi nas, min shari waswasil khanas, aladi waswi sufi sudurinas, min al janati wanas, kulaud brapanas, maliki nas ilahi nas, min shari waswasil khanas, aladi waswi sufi sudurinas, min al janati wanas, kulaud brapanas, maliki nas ilahi nas, min shari waswasil khanas, aladi waswi sufi sudurinas, min al janati wanas, kulaud brapanas, maliki nas ilahi nas, min shari waswasil khanas, aladi waswi sufi sudurinas, min al janati wanas. Prayer on the Prophet. Salatul Fatih. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad al-Fatihi lima ublika, wa katimi lima sabaka, nasir al-haqi bil-haqi wa hadi, ila siratika al-mustaqim, wa ala alihi, haqqa qadrihi, wa miqdarihi al-ladhi. $100. Astaghfirullah. Astaghfirullah, 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 astaghfirullah. Ameen, ameen, ameen. And certainly with our topic for tonight, we definitely have to do 100 La ilaha illallah. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. La ilaha illallah. 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 La ilaha illallah, 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 la ilaha illallah. La ilaha illallah, 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 La ilaha illallah. Ameen, ameen, ameen. And the class that we have going on by the great Sheikh Mustafa for Kafitu, we'll do Kafitu, Kaf Ha Ya Ain Sad. Kafitu Kula Dararim Yalahu Bisiri La ilaha illallahu. Habli Marati Yakama'a Wahu Bisiri La ilaha illallahu. Yasili alusra kama'a wahu bisiri la ilaha illallahu. Allah Nabil Mustafa ya Allahu salibi la ilaha illallahu. Salatun muknin bi salam alahi bisiri la ilaha illallahu. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. We send thanks for this day, for this Friday Darrah, for all who have assembled, for all of our families, everyone in the Darrah. We give thanks for the opportunity to come before this group and present and hear and learn information that is coming forth from the divine, from the wisdom of the great ones who have come before us. We ask for protection over our Darrah, over our families, over our Sheikh as he travels and brings forth light and manifests light in the West. Barke Sheikh Moundbuilder, Barke Sheikh Ibrahim, Barke Serene Follow, Barke Serene Salihu, Barke Sheikh Sufi Ba, Barke Sheikh Sufi Ba, Barke Sheikh Sufi Ba. Assalamu alaikum and Juma Mubarak to the family. How's everyone on this blessed Friday evening? I'm going to go with the knowing that all is well and all is as it should be. And the fact that we are here is evidence that we are winning by Allah's grace. Today is a special day. Every Friday Darrah is special. Every Jummah is special. This day is special because it's the first day of March. So we're beginning a new month with our Western tropical calendar. And we are also less than 2 weeks from beginning Ramadan. This is the 20th day of Shaban in our Muslim calendar. So within a couple of weeks, we will begin the sacred month of Ramadan, where we will be fasting and abstaining from drink and food and conjugal activities during the daylight hours. And then during the dark hours, we eat from the time that the sun goes down all the way up until sunrise by Allah's grace. Astaghfirullah, that's not correct. We fast during the daylight hours, and then we have a meal in the dark hours of the evening. And we are also encouraged to have a meal to begin our day before the sun comes up as well. But back in the day, that's what a lot of the brothers and sisters used to do. We would fast during the daylight hours, and we would be grubbing all during the nighttime hours. Not the way the fast is designed. We're supposed to eat that one meal in the evening and then have a little something in the morning to begin the day before the sun comes up. During that time, of course, of Ramadan, that's the time where we will be reading Quran. There's a juz or a section of the Quran that is to be read each day. So each day there's a portion of the Quran that we are to read and to study. And in addition to that, we are focusing on purification so that we can cleanse ourselves during this cleansing season. Purify ourselves so that we can allow the divine light of Allah to dwell within our vessel. These are the things that we're looking at and that we'll be focused on in the sacred month of Ramadan, which is a couple of weeks out, less than a couple of weeks out. And we will be ready and readying ourselves now for that. Sheikh Sufi gave a suggestion, which is a wonderful suggestion as always. And that suggestion was to start now. Start now preparing ourselves for Ramadan by pushing back from the table during the daylight hours and getting ready and getting our bodies ready to consume a meal during the evening hours, so that when Ramadan begins, we are already in lockstep with that process. And we can have a very, very successful Ramadan and bring into ourselves the light that is necessary for us to continue to move from station to station to station by Allah's grace. Does anybody have any questions or thoughts or comments about that before we jump into our topic for the evening? I know we have some Ramadan professionals on here who have been through many times, so if I'm missing something, I know that we have enough light on here to cover the gaps by Allah's grace. If there are no questions or additional comments, then we will move on into our topic for the evening once I can figure out how to do that. Allah's grace. There we go, share screen. Alhamdulillah. Tonight, our topic for discussion is Allah in the heart of woman and man. Allah in the heart of woman and man. very, very, assalamu alaikum. Good to have the greeting from the youth. I mean, this topic tonight of Allah in the heart of the woman, I mean,
Stop for love.
It means you spoke the truth, Cheikh. I ain't saying nothing else. I had to say that. Stop Allah.
Stop for love. Stop for love. Stop for love.
alhamdulillah, all in divine time and always. This topic of Allah in the heart is a real strong Sufi topic because Sufi and Sufism deals a lot with heart energy, deals a lot with purifying the heart, deals a lot with being in tune and feeling the very nature and essence that is Allah in the heart space, which is the seat of Allah. I'm going ahead of myself, but we'll get there. So as we talk about Allah in the heart of woman and in the heart of man, we first must talk about and begin to establish the idea of Allah being in man and in woman, first in the physical vessel, and then we'll deal with the heart, which is the seat where Allah is seated. So when we think about Allah in man and in woman, one of the first things that comes to mind is what we used to call, back when we were in the nation, we would talk about what's called point number 12. And this point number 12 has been a focus of many discussions, some arguments, lots of back and forth, to the point where many of us had to become very, very proficient in defending and describing point number 12, which is what was presented to us in what the Muslims want and what the Muslims believe, and was in the Muhammad Speaks, and then later in the Final Call newspaper, every issue. The reason why we bring this up is because Islam here in the West has a history. And those who first came here to the West and began to teach us of Islam, many of them were Sufi, and they moved in silence. One of the major movements here in the West back in the day was the Ahmadiyya movement that came over and began to teach here in the West. Then around 1930, there emerged a man called Master Farad Muhammad, who began to teach this concept also of God in man, or God as man. So point number 12, which was something that was often discussed, we believe that Allah God appeared in the person of Master W. Farad Muhammad, July 1930, the long-awaited Messiah of the Christians and the Mahdi of the Muslims. This point and statement angered a lot of people, both Christians and Muslims, because it dealt with the idea of Allah being in a human being, Allah being in a person. And from a Sufi perspective, this is something that has always been known and has always been promoted among Sufis, that Allah manifests in creation, even though he is the creation, the creator. Astaghfirullah. Allah is the creator, and he manifests him and herself in what has been created. That's the key point. Many times when we think of the idea of man and we think of the idea of woman, we limit that idea to this physical vessel. This physical body comprised of bone and muscle and tendon and sinew and atoms and molecules. That's the vessel. But what is on the inside, the inward dweller that inhabits this vessel, that is the Allah, the source, the essence, the all in all, the only reality. So when we talk about Allah manifesting him and herself in a human being, what we're talking about and simply saying is the idea of me physically, or you physically, or what we are seeing with our eyes is all an illusion. The only reality is Allah. So if a man or a woman is moving and they're doing the work of Allah in a physical vessel, that is not the actual person that's doing it. Allah is the only doer, because Allah is the only thing that exists. That's the point that is being made when we talk about Allah being in the person of an individual. Now, when we talk about Master Farad Muhammad coming forth and bringing forth wisdom to us here in the West, that was one of the first places that we learned about Allah in the person of a man or a woman. But all throughout his teachings, even though that was the teaching, that Allah appeared in the person of Master Farad Muhammad, he also taught that we were his uncle, because his uncle, Alfonso, was an original man, and we were referred to as the original man. So the point that he was trying to make, and I'm not trying to get too far into the science of this thing, just want you to understand the idea that was being conveyed to us is that as we live and move in this particular existence, it's important for us to be upright, stand on the principles and the faith and the manifestation of Allah, and be the manifestation of Allah in our physical vessels. That's the point that we want to get at. So each of us represent that light, that nur of Allah in physical form. And each of us has the capacity to grow from station to station to station until we evolve into what is called the perfect being. This is our destiny on this murid path, and this is the goal of the Sufi and the murid, to realize Allah realization. Does anybody have any questions about that, or feel that they're not clear about that? Because that's a very, very important point that we really have to stand on. As Sufis, as Murids, as beings of light. Because what we're going to discover is that this isn't only a truth that's comprised in Islam. This is also known and has been known in other religions of the world and other spiritual systems of the world as well. Does anybody have any questions or comments on that part? I just got to make sure nobody's chopping at the bit. If not, then we'll move on. So, as we look at Sufism, first of all, can everybody see the screen? I never asked that question, but might be a good time to ask.
Yeah, Sheikh. We're seeing it on
Oh,
this end.
alhamdulillah, great. You know, sometimes you got to check this technology. It ain't always what it claims to be. Okay, so looking at this concept, some key points to keep in mind is Sufism's unity of being philosophy asserts that Allah is the sole reality, and all creation is a manifestation of him or her. This is the Sufi philosophy. This isn't anything that we're just making up. This is also something that was well known before 1930. So this goes back a ways. This understanding is well known. And when I say it goes back a ways, we're talking about Egypt, and we're talking about Sumeria, Mesopotamia, Timbuktu, right here in ancient America, South America, etc. This is a well-known concept. And understanding that we are lights emanating from or as portions or reflections of the ultimate light. That's what we are. And we really, really have to stand on that and walk in that, especially now, because it's coming much more important to do that as we move through this particular season. So all creation is a manifestation of Allah. Now, when I read that and I saw that, that very much is in line with our ancient spiritual systems and societies, because many of us understood from the teachings of Egypt, as well as other parts of Africa, as well as here in the West, we had reverence for nature. We had reverence for stars. We had reverence for plants, for trees. We had reverence for, even in India, there's a reverence for the cow. And when you're looking at it from a Western trained religious mind, it looks like a form of polytheism. But when you look at it and understand it from a Sufi perspective of understanding that nothing exists but Allah, and everything that we see in creation is a manifestation of what Allah has created, and understanding that Allah can present himself or herself through that creation is a concept that a lot of people never really bother to understand. But this is what Sufism is speaking to. This is what our ancient societies were speaking to. This whole concept of Allah in many forms, and we being one of those forms. And the highest development of that form is the human being. Remember, Allah gave Adam the authority over everything in the Garden of Eden. And it was Adam who was the highest on the scale, even above the angels. That's what Adam represents. So we, as the descendants and those who come forth in that lineage, also represent that same authority. And we have to begin to exercise it in the most positive and productive way, particularly now. Also, according to Islamic theology, Allah is not just a being, but being itself. And any existence outside of Allah is considered polytheism. Now, this is a big one. It's a big one for me because this is one that I always thought about, and I always presented to people who were big on this whole concept and idea of polytheism and really not understanding what polytheism is or how polytheism works. When it talks about how Allah is not just a being, Allah is beingness. The essence of just being is Allah. Period. So anything that is in existence and that is as a result of the beingness of Allah, that isness. Is not from the perspective I think, therefore I am. It's more from the perspective I am, so now I have the capacity to think. Everything is just kind of flipped. So the whole state of being and the whole isness is Allah, him, or herself. And so when we think about that and we look at that, not so much from a religious perspective, but from the understanding of what we presented in terms of Sufism, if Allah is the all in all, if Allah is the only reality, if nothing else exists outside of Allah, then the question becomes, what is polytheism? Polytheism says that you are associating something or someone with Allah. Sufism has already asserted that nothing exists but Allah. So there is nothing to present outside of Allah or to say that it's worship besides Allah, because there is nothing besides Allah. So the whole idea and concept, as we grow up into the understanding on the next stages of our development, we began to understand that the way that things are looked at on one level is not necessarily the way that they exist on the higher level. So we're going to read that one more again. According to Islamic theology, Allah is not just a being, but being itself. And any existence outside of Allah is considered polytheism, or as we used to say back in the day, non-cipher. It doesn't exist. Zero. Nothing. Moving forward. The perfect man, the Insan al-Kamil, is a human being who has reached a state of complete self-annihilation, where he recognizes himself as nothing but Allah's reflection and acts accordingly. That's the key part. The recognition is great, but acting in accord with what you have recognized is the next step. This is the key for us on this path, because otherwise we will continue to find ourselves as the errand boys of a society and of others, because we haven't grown up into this reflection of Allah and begin to move in accords with what that reflection is, who that reflection is, which is the only thing and the only reality that exists. So this idea of the Insan al-Kamil, or a perfect human being, or realizing a perfect state of self-annihilation and recognition of Allah and moving forward with that is key. Now, we know that there are a number of Muslim scholars listening right now in our Darrah, and of course, I'm talking to each one of you. And this idea of Insan Kamil and this idea of annihilation in Allah, there are 3 steps, 2 before we reach this final step, but there's 3 steps with respect to reaching this point eventually of Insan Kamil. Does anybody know what those 3 steps are? I'll give you a hint. The first word is fana. Who knows what those 3 are?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim.
Bismillah.
Is inshallah it is Fanafi Sheikh.
Mm.
Fanafi, and all the Fanafis mean like to be lost in, to almost dissolve into and become so into it that you are it, like you're saying. But Fanafi Sheikh,
Mm-hmm.
Fanafi Rasul, being lost in the messenger, being lost in the Sheikh, being lost in the messenger Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and Fanafi Allah, being lost in Allah.
Ameen. Right on it. Right on it. I told you, we got some scholars up in here. They know what's going on. That is exactly right. The first step on the journey is to be lost and to be consumed in the Sheikh. That's the first step, where the Sheikh begins to speak to you, even though you're not physically in the presence of the Sheikh, where the Sheikh begins to come into your dreams, talk to you and teach you, even though they are not physically in your environment. Then there's Fanafi Rasul, where you become annihilated in the messenger, Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. And in that annihilation, you lose yourself and you lose the I-ness, and you become part of and grow up into the power and the essence and the energy that is the nur light of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. And then the final stage is we lose ourselves in Allah, and we begin to reflect the light that is Allah. And we begin to move in accord with that reflection and begin to exercise that power and that light in our daily life. Those are the 3 steps that eventually lead to what is called the Insan al-Kamil. Does anyone have any questions on that? Okay, lastly, Allah in the world is depicted as a triad of love, lover, and beloved, where the goal is to realize that there is nothing but Allah and that our being is Allah's being. So we think that we are to live for ourselves. But as we grow and understand and move along on this path, we begin to discover that there is the life and the light of Allah that is actually moving, energizing, and demonstrating through this physical vessel. And one of the great ways to get a picture of that is if I am looking out of this physical vessel, then my eyes are looking, but there's an I-ness on the inside that's looking out through those two eyes. If I am doing things, then there is an inner force that's actually moving me and you to do. Remember, Allah is the only doer, no matter what it looks like. Allah is the only doer. So with this, we began to remove ourselves from the equation. That's part of the annihilation. We began to lose ourselves. We began to lose our ego. We began to lose our physical, mental understanding and began to move more into the knowing that is the one true and only knower, Allah. And that is described as the love, the lover, and the beloved, that triad. Because all of it is taking place in the heart. It's coming from the heart place, because the heart place is the seat of Allah, in the heart. That's why we titled this particular talk, Allah in the Heart of Woe, Woman and Man, or Woman. So that we can understand that based on the condition, the purification, and the work that we do to clear out the physical self and to clear out the ego, the more room that we make for Allah to manifest fully through our physical vessel. And that's what this path, this tariqah, this walk is all about. Lessening ourselves and allowing more and more of that nur, that light, to shine forth through us. That's what the journey, the Sufi path, is all about. Any questions or comments on that so far? Okay, we keeping it quiet tonight. Now, we talked about how the different spiritual systems, religions, ancient traditions and customs and cultures had the concept of Allah, or the Spirit of God, in man and in woman. So we have a few examples here. In Hinduism, in the Bhagavad Gita, it says, I am the self, O Gadakesha. This is a name for Arjuna, for those who are familiar with Hindu literature. That's another name for Arjuna. And seated in the hearts of all creatures. So this I, speaking of the divine that is called in the Hindu perspective, particularly in the Bhagavad Gita, is talking about the Brahma, which is the name that is assigned to that divine light, or that source, or that essence. So back to polytheism for a moment. We can't confuse names with other beings. So if in one culture, the name that is assigned to the great divine being is Brahma, Shiva, or Vishnu, or Kulu, or Quetzalcoatl, or even Apollo, Adonis, Ra. What these are different names that are assigned to this creative force or this source. There are many names for Allah. We have the 99 names that we are aware of, but there are many, many more. So as we read and as we study, it's important to understand what the person is referring to when they speak, and then do some background study to understand what exactly they're speaking to and speaking about. So in this case, this I that they're referring to is the ultimate I, the ultimate reality, which we know of as Allah. And it is saying that this I is seated in the hearts of all creatures. I am the beginning, the middle, and the end of all beings. And in the Hindu pantheon, that is, I am the Brahma, I am the Vishnu, I am the Shiva, going through that whole cycle of beingness, because that's really what it's talking about. It's talking about a cycle, and it's talking about every phase of that cycle. So this I, or this source, or this essence, sits in the hearts of each and every one of us. As we go to Islam, of course, in the Quran, the 50th Surah, 16th ayat, and we indeed, astaghfirullah, and indeed we have created man, and we know what his own self whispers to him, and we are nearer to him than his jugular vein. This idea of being nearer than the jugular vein, first of all, is on the inside. Let's start there. So if Allah is nearer to us than our own jugular vein, then it's telling us that Allah is also on the inside of us. The jugular vein is not on the outside. The jugular vein is on the inside. So it's talking about this closeness, or this nearness, or this inward dwelling within us. That's what the Quran is speaking to in terms of Allah being with us and in us. In Christianity, 2 Corinthians 3rd chapter 16th verse, it says, "Do you not know that you are a temple of God, and that the Spirit of God dwells in you?" Can't get much clearer than that. The Spirit of God dwells in you, in man, in woman. That's where the Spirit of God dwells. This takes away spookism, where we're looking for anything and everything outside of ourselves. Allah is the inward dweller, and Allah is all that exists. There is no outside. This is why Cheikh Moundbuilder said the only jihad that is left is jihad al-nafs. The jihad over the nafs, the hawa, the dunya, and the shaitan. That's on the inside. Once we win that battle, then we can continue on the process, moving into annihilation in Allah. But the whole idea of having this man sitting somewhere way up with the long beard looking down at us, that's not Allah. Allah is the inward dweller within each and every one of us. And we definitely want to be clear about that. Yogananda, in his teaching, said Allah, a God, is in every man, but all men are not in Allah. That is why we suffer. That is a mouthful. That is completely lit, because it's making clear the point that Allah is in us, but there are certain things that we have to do to be in alignment with that light that is in us. If we keep our focus, like I just mentioned, on spookism, on things that of non-importance or very little relevance, and not keep our focus on the divine concepts, divine principles, then we are out of step with Allah, and it causes us to suffer. Suffering is caused by misalignment. Suffering is caused by not realizing the light that is within us. You can't focus on Allah within and focus on the madness that's taking place out in the world at the same time. You're going to suffer. So he's speaking to a very important concept of recognition again, recognizing who we really are ultimately and what it is that is within us and how we are to move and evolve that forward right now. Lastly, Rumi says that the light of the beloved is within you. The lover awakens it within himself. So again, the beloved is actually the lover within self. That triad that we spoke to earlier. But it's talking about love because that's the heart space. It takes place within the heart. Does anybody have any thoughts or comments on what we have presented thus far? So we have established that Allah dwells in man and in woman. We have established that Allah also presents himself and manifests himself and herself through creation, through manifestation. We have also made clear that the isness or the beingness, wherever we see it, is Allah. And now we have made clear that the seat of Allah is in the heart space. Sheikh Sufi often uses the example where he asked the person to point to themselves. And he said, most of the people that point to themselves point to the chest, right where the heart is. Beautiful thing about that is that's actually the seat of Allah. That's the dwelling place of Allah. Now here's the kicker. The human heart or the physical heart, we're told that it's about the size of each person's fist. We're also told that the human heart is about 7 to 15 ounces in terms of weight. And we also told that because of the electrical system, the heart pumps blood throughout the body. I think they came up with a number like 100,000 times a day, something like that. But each time that blood is being pumped through the body, those thousands of times a day, based on what the condition of our heart is, will determine what is being pumped throughout our body. We have what's called the physical heart, and then we have what's called the higher heart. The higher heart is what we're speaking to with respect to the seat of Allah. That's the higher heart. That's the place of the divine ish, the al-wadud. That's all in the higher heart. And then the lower aspects of that is where we have what's called emotions. Emotions have been attributed to love, but emotions is just a portion or a small part of what love actually is. From the point of when a person has great affection for someone, that's called love. When a person has anger and hostility towards someone, that's called hate. But both of these extremes are emotions that exist within love. Love, in many concepts and Sufi orders and understanding, love is a word that is synonymous with Allah, interchangeable even, or even another name for Allah would be love. Love from the highest level. That's what love really speaks to. It's really a place of emanation or beingness or isness. All of that speaks to love. And when we're moving from that space, and scriptures talk about having a certain type of love for your brother, love for your sister, no greater love is there than this, that a man would lay down his life for a friend. This is talking about a higher love. Like Shaka Khan used to say, bring me a higher love. This higher love is a love that is above and beyond the normal day-to-day stuff in mundane life that we live. This higher love, or this higher seat, is the place where Allah resides in us and as us and move through us. So the more we're able to purify ourselves, the more we're able to cleanse ourselves, get the negativity out, the more of that higher love can emanate through us and to us, to our physical vessel, so that we can shine the light and be the reflection of Allah. Any thoughts or questions or comments about this higher love, this higher heart, this love that is Allah, the beingness and the isness? If not, then we'll move to our next slide, talking about, again, this concept of love. Cheikh Moundbuilder, somebody that we all should know, said that my religion is love, love of Allah. That's Sheikh's religion. And if Cheikh Moundbuilder said that that's his religion, then I would behoove you to make that your religion as well. The religion of love, learning how to love one another, learning how to be love and emanate love more in our daily walk, learning how to love ourselves more, Very, very important. Charity starts at home and spreads abroad. So if we don't have it within us and flowing through us, it's going to be difficult to try and give it to somebody else or find it and recognize it in someone else. So we start where we are, we start with ourselves. Hazrat Inayat Khan. This is one of my favorite books when I first started on this Sufi path, going back decades. This was the book that I had. It's called The Heart of Sufism. And that's one of the first places where I began to learn the idea and the concept of Allah being seated in the heart and Sufism being the process and the journey of the love of Allah and in the love of Allah to the ultimate growth and manifestation of Allah as love through this physical vessel. That book is power-packed with a lot of valuable information speaking to what our subject matter is, which is Allah in the heart of each of us. We have heard the saying many times that Allah does not fit into the universe, but Allah fits inside the heart. This is a Sufi saying that is well known. And so as vast and as wondrous as the universe is, which we mentally cannot even conceive the vastness of the universe, Allah is too big to fit into that, but he's not too big to fit into our heart. Very, very key, and helps us to know what we're walking around in. Hazrat Khan says, if anybody asks what is Sufism, what kind of religion is it? The answer is that Sufism is the religion of the heart. Sounds familiar. The religion in which the thing of primary importance is to seek Allah in the heart of mankind. So once we have developed and once we have recognized the light of Allah, the love of Allah in ourselves, then we can go out and recognize the light of Allah and even help to ignite the light of Allah in other beings. Because it's not the physical us that is igniting that. It is Allah that is us that is igniting that. So this is of primary importance to seek this in ourselves, emanate from that place, and then find that and speak to that place in other people. The last quote that I took from this book, The Heart of Sufism, and there's so much in there, but I just wanted to give a taste of some of what's in there. It says, man has not seen God, but man has then seen God in man. And when this is so, then verily everything that comes from such a man comes from Allah himself. I'm going to read that one more time. Man has not seen Allah, but man has then seen Allah in man. And when this is so, then verily everything that comes from such a man comes from Allah, him or herself. Again, Allah is the only doer, the only mover, the only being, the only isness, the only presence. that's Allah. So when we see a man doing divine works, that is Allah doing through that particular vessel. Because again, Allah is the only doer. This is how we understand and move into knowing that Allah exists in the heart of man and woman. And yes, these physical vessels, Allah emanates and moves through these physical vessels. The last thing we want to look at is this word namaste, which clearly states that the source, the being, the Allah in me recognizes, acknowledges, and honors the source, the Allah that is within you. This is what Hazrat Khan was just speaking to when he was talking about recognizing that heart of Allah in mankind and the importance of seeking that in mankind. So when you recognize that the light of Allah is in you, then when you greet someone with this East Asian term called namaste, you're actually recognizing and honoring the light that is within them. Same concept that we utilize here in Sufism, but it goes to show us that this is not something that's new nor isolated to one particular idea, tradition, or discipline, that this is a universal concept, well understood and known by all of the great ones who have come before us. And we, as the latest incarnation or dispensation of that energy in these physical bodies, are carrying that light of information forward to help to wake up the rest of us so that we can begin to see this light of Allah, this heart of Allah, this higher heart in everyone that we come in contact with, and speak to that higher heart, knowing that Allah exists in that being just as Allah exists in us. Any other ideas, comments, or questions concerning that topic? Allah in the heart. If not, then where I'm going to shift to now is my Murid, how do I say this? Commercial. There we go. Murid commercial. Moving with respect to the heart. We as a Darrah, let me see, make sure that we got some Darrah here. We as a Darrah, moving together on this same path and seeking to build higher and higher, we have put forth a process where we can keep in touch or better touch with one another and help to bring people who may be looking for some type of work or getting some type of assistance with something based on the talents that we have within our Darrah, instead of going outside of our Darrah and giving that money and that time and energy and effort to somebody else and enriching their pockets, we can use that same information and connect people with individuals within our own Darrah who have abilities, and skills to utilize and help humanity. The best way that we can help you to do that is to get you to fill out the form that Cheikh Aisha sent out. And shout out to Sister Ciara, who did a magnificent job of putting it on the Sufi website, where we can just fill out this little simple form, not a bunch of personal information or nothing like that. But in order for us to build, in order for us to help one another on the path, in order for us to be in better contact with one another, in order for us to bring people to people who can assist them within our own Darrah, one of the ways that we can do that is by putting forth and making known the skills, talents, and abilities that we have, and putting forth our information so that we can be in better contact with one another. Iron sharpens iron. And being together and moving together and being in community one with another, even if we are not at this stage able to be in physical community or in the physical environment of one another for extended period of times, we can at least touch bases from time to time. So one of the reasons for filling out this form is for that reason, for us to, kind of keep in touch with one another, because, sometimes we go out into the dunya and we get beat up a little bit and we don't have anybody to, kind of talk to and break bread with and kind of work through some of the things that might be facing us. This is the importance of what a Darrah is, or what a community is, and what we're building here in the West. So just a little simple thing as filling out this form, just a little simple thing of jotting down some of the things that we're gifted with, so that when the time comes and presents itself where that skill could be utilized, or somebody's looking for that, instead of going outside, they can stay right inside the Darrah and get that assistance. Does anybody have a problem with that, or see that as being problematic, or not feeling that that's something that they want to do? So knowing that everybody is right in accords with that process, be sure to fill out that form this weekend and send it to the appropriate place. If you fill out on the website, it'll go where it's supposed to go. If you fill out the form itself, you can send that to Cheikh Aisha. I'm guessing that she would not be feeling overwhelmed and bombarded with the number of forms that are going to come in. But we're working to make sure that that's something that happens, because this is the seed point, being the 1st of March, beginning of spring. This is a good time to begin to plant those seeds, so that as we move forward in the year, what will be sprouted can be harvested in the most positive way. The other reason for that, again, is based on your talents, your skills, your abilities. We'll be looking at different opportunities that fit you, because we're very much aware of the fact that many people in the Darrah does not necessarily have the type of money that they would want to have. And my hand is raised as well. So as a Darrah, what we're looking at is ways that we can benefit one another and find different avenues that will allow us to bring in the amount of funds that we desire, as well as allow us to keep doing the work that we're doing now on this path. And we mentioned before, we'll mention it again, Sheikh Yazid is a very, very powerful and dynamic brother in the field of business. And he knows how to work and connect with and build bridges to places that will help us and allow us to bring in the types of resources that we require and continue to do the work that we need to be doing on this path, our spiritual and our inner work, so that one part of us doesn't suffer to the extent that the other part of us can excel. We can establish some type of balance as we continue to walk in this dunya. So that's my Sufi commercial for now. Make sure that we go and we fill out this form so that we can already have in hand the information that's needed to connect with you, the information that's needed so that we can connect you with the right opportunities that work best for you, so that all of us can win together and do what's necessary to be successful in the now as well as in the hereafter. Does anybody have any questions, ideas, comments, thoughts about that? Then I'm going to take that to mean that everybody is in agreement and that everybody is going to be moving forward with that. Many of us would like to go and see Sheikh Sufi, and we certainly send for protection for him and barakas as he travels in Morocco now, and will be traveling back to Spain before Ramadan. But we have desires of going to visit with him. That's going to require funds. And if the funds that we have now are not adequate enough to allow us to do that, then it would help to begin to put ourselves in position where we
Can you
have.
post the link to the website?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
Peace. Can you post the link to the website where we can fill that form out?
Yes.
Okay.
We will put that in the chat groups. Again, we will put that in all the major chat groups so that you can fill it out there and make sure that you have access to it.
Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah.
Ameen. So we want to make sure that we are doing something that benefits and moving in a way that benefits each of us in this Darrah, because things are getting crazy here in the West, and we never know where we might get to a point where we might need to hold up someplace else. And we want to be in position to be able to do that in the best way. Sheikh Sufi has talked about it numerous times, the importance of that. And each day that passes, it gets more and more important. So let's take some progressive steps to make sure that we move in accordance with that. We mentioned already about Ramadan coming up in the next couple of weeks. And we mentioned, of course, Sheikh, another commercial. Make sure that we join the Patreon that Sheikh Sufi has listed in the chat as well. This is the way that we can continue to receive updates and videos and be connected with our Sheikh. So make sure that we join and support that, because that's very, very important for our Darrah, for our Sheikh, and for ourselves. We want to make sure that we're supporting that. And I see that the link has been put in the chat group for this particular recording. So definitely click on that now, and we can begin to fill that out immediately. But yes, make sure that we join the Sufi Patreon and support that as well, because it's a lot of valuable information that's going to be coming forward. Need to know information. And it doesn't cost much, it doesn't take much, but every bit helps. And we want to make sure that we're supporting as best as possible what we say we are committed to. We want to support it with our actions, with our khidmah, as well as with some of the resources that come to us as well. So let's make sure that we do that. Also, Wednesday nights, I think we have 2 more classes left. Sheikh Mustafa is teaching Kafitu, that Kaf, Ha, Ya, Ain, Sod power, every Wednesday night, for the next couple Wednesday nights, I believe. And so definitely take some time to come on there and get your recitation in, because we're reciting to get to the point where we actually memorize. So on Wednesdays at, I believe it's 8 o'clock, we have the Kafitu class with Sheikh Mustafa. And for our Arabic readers, we have an Arabic class with Brother Kofi, and I believe that is either 7 or 8 o'clock on Tuesday nights now. That's going to be on Tuesday nights. I know it sounds like a long commercial, but while I have an opportunity to update, I want to make sure that everybody is aware of some of the things that's going on, and that we as a Darrah are not just sitting around fiddling our thumbs. We're actually trying to make sure that we're making progressive steps towards doing what Allah would be pleased with. Anything that I might have missed, or any other questions or comments or ideas that anyone want to share before we close out?
Assalamu alaikum, Cheikh Idris Bar.
Wa alaikum salam.
Yes, I'm on the metro bus, so y'all have to forgive the noise you might hear, but I could not go without saying anything. First of all, you did an excellent presentation. I am so
Alhamdulillah.
grateful. And I took screenshot of all of it because I'm gonna go in the house and reread it. But I just wanted to camel back on what you have shared and let them know that Sheikh Sufi has given us permission to put out this forum. This is not just something that we decided to do on our own. This is his way of helping to keep the Darrah organized, especially in his absence from being here on the West Side. So if anybody has any questions, feel free to text me, email me, call me, whatever it might be, and I'm here to help you. This is also my calling. I have a calling to keep people connected. So I want to fulfill that because Allah has put it on my heart. And we need to do that. Like Cheikh Idris says, sometimes we just might need to bounce things off of each other. We need to network with each other, or else we won't be able to build the community, you know, the Sufi community that Sheikh Sufi has been desiring to build. So let's all make him proud. Let's continue to, you know, bring in fruition all that Sheikh Ahmadu Bamba and Sheikh Ibrahim has left for us to build on. I share a whole. I thank all of you for participating tonight, and I look forward to receiving your forms, inshallah.
Ameen. Thank you so much, Sheikh Ayeshe, bringing the heat and the vital information that we need. Very, very important points and very good marching orders for us to move in accord with. Definitely appreciate you, sister, and appreciate your khidmah.
Assalamu alaikum is Sheikh Ayaba. Can you hear me?
Wa alaikum salam.
Yeah, I always I do better on the computer than on the phone. I hit the phone, nothing moves. You know, anyway, it's a challenge. What was the title of tonight's talk?
Allah in the heart of woman and man.
I didn't hear too much about one man. What was you
Oh,
gonna say? Did I miss something?
well,
What did you? I heard you say womb man. I did not hear the concept of it directly. I mean, I got some words, but I don't want to throw nothing out there until I know what I'm throwing, where I'm throwing it.
well, as always, Shaker, you are right on it. Yes. And we spoke about this, I think it was last time I did Darrah, and probably the time about that as well. But when we
Okay.
talk about Allah, we talk about Allah being and presented as both male and female. When
Okay.
we talk about creation and
Mm-hmm.
the creation that comes forth from Allah and as Allah, creation comes forth from darkness. It comes from the dark womb of the universe. And we
Mm-hmm.
talked about how everything that we see in the light today has come forth out of
From
the
the darkness.
darkness. And
Mm-hmm.
so when we talk about the darkness, we're also talking about the womb of woman, which is the womb and the workplace of creation. So everything that is existing in physical form is in existence as a result of the feminine principle. Creation is a feminine work. Whether we are looking at our musawir, which is the fashioner, or our khalik, which is the creator, these are feminine aspects of Allah and the feminine creation and creative process that is Allah, coming forth out of the darkness or the dark womb of space or the womb of mother. That is feminine work. So when we say Allah, you will hear Sheikh Sufi sometimes say she,
Mm-hmm.
because that is speaking to that creative feminine essence and manifestation of Allah from that she perspective, that
Yes.
creative fashioning, original, primordial, chaotic perspective. Not to get too metaphysical, but that is from the feminine side.
Okay. Yes, truly understand. I wanted to just share just a little short thing because we're in the West, and the Western concept of life has kind of like diminished the aspect of the source or God or Allah in it. They don't act like that exists.
That's right.
But I'm here to bear witness that I knew I was pregnant the instant I got pregnant. Now, how could I know that if something happened, it made me know there was a presence there. I put the words to it now, but I didn't have no words then. I just knew. I started smiling. I said, "Oh my God, I'm pregnant!" And once the baby left the body, something left with it. Just like I knew something had come in when it happened, something also left. And you can talk to any woman about it that had natural childbirth. When the baby crowned, the ring of fire was around the opening where the baby exited the womb. And once the baby exited the womb completely, you knew something was gone. You just couldn't you couldn't express that in words. I didn't know what to call it. But it made me understand why some women have postpartum depression. I did not have that, not by any means, because I had the inner understanding that that was the presence of the Creator. That was the presence of Allah that was formed that baby. And that presence had done what it had come to do and exited the baby or exited the life form that was created inside of me. And I always say to people that we have a body that from which is extracted the physical necessities to make a body in us, but we don't have no idea what's going on.
Right.
We don't know what we're doing, and we don't know what is being done through us, you know. And so when I examined what I felt was missing once the baby came out, I said, oh, that's why women have postpartum depression. They feel like God has left them.
Mm.
I just don't really have words. That's the closest words I can express about it. I can't say I felt empty. I didn't feel empty, but I felt the lack of that presence. It's really difficult to put in words. When you have how can I put this? The concept of Allah is all, everything is. Allah is within, Allah is without. Another concept that I use of Allah is a word that people commonly throw around, and some people in some religions call it Adam, A-D-A-M.
Right.
But the conception of an atom. And the atom on the physical, a simple way, if I were explaining it to children, would be your family. The father, the mother, or the mother, the father, and all the little children. Some of them are protons, some are electrons, some are neutrons. You know, some of them I ain't got no definition for. They just it's out there.
It just existed.
They existed. However, you know, but there's we got names for every aspect of creation because Allah is the namer. And when many things have come to some of us, some people don't talk about it, but I would like to hear more people talk about their own spiritual experiences that even when they were having it, they didn't know it was a spiritual experience. You know, like there are some people probably in the Darrah who have dreams or even visions or the oral thing. They hear conceptions appear to them in the form of words. I want people to feel confident that this what they're talking about when they say Allah is in everything and Allah is everything. That is the truth. It's
I'm
not
glad
a
you bring that up.
concept. Yes, sir. It's
Yeah.
Go ahead. No, you speak.
Oh no, I
Go
don't want
ahead.
to cut your flow.
Oh, and well, I yeah, right. I can make a joke about that, but no. We go through phases and we go through cycles, and I have traveled through a variety of what people would call different cultures. But now that I've made the journey, I don't see no difference. The same concept exists in the Yoruba culture. For example, when the brothers go out to make a drum, you notice I said brothers.
Yes.
When the brothers go out to make drums, they gotta pray. They get out to the forest, they gotta pray. For what tree they supposed to use? You just go and chop up a tree.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you go to the place where the animals are kept. You got to wait till the animal that Allah sends for your drum shows up to you. You just don't go, so I think I'll take that one. That's a nice fat one. Or I take that one. He old, his meat probably tough. It's no physical decision making. It's an attunement making that causes the decision to manifest, is the attunement. I could go on with this about relationships. You know, you meet somebody and you have this physical attraction, which my first teacher said is just chemistry. You in the chemistry, you put two chemicals together, you have an explosion. That's love. No, that's an explosion. So you have the same thing happening with you with you know beings who call themselves humans. And you call it love.
Right.
Who told you that was love? Who? I remember in elementary school and the teacher called herself putting on the board the different kinds of love. And I remember saying there ain't but one love. This was sixth grade. You know. Now if somebody had asked me, how you know that? Who told you that? Just in my head. That's all I could say. It didn't make. My father said, if you don't have common sense, you have no sense. That was one of the things he told me. He told me many things, but another great thing he told me, he said, as you grow up, you're going to meet many different people who walk many different roads. They're going to tell you this about God, that about God, and that about God. But I'm going to tell you this about God. God is math.
Wow.
That's all. He didn't break it down because he always want to make you think, and not make you think, but inspire you to think. So that's the conception, or that's the idea when you meet somebody, when you have children, when you engage in decision making, where are you going? How far is it going to take you? What drove you to this? We disavow the relationship, the continuity of the relationship between who we are now in 2024 and exactly where you get this voice from, where you get this shape of your body from, where you get these color eyes from, where you get this kind of hair from, where you get the shape of your, because people will come up to you, older people say, girl, you look just like your aunt Bloods and Susu. You look just like your grandpa. You look just like your granddad's brother. None of the people, you don't know none of them. So we don't realize that the all in all that we are talking about when we talk about Allah is the all. I mean, it is the all. It's all. It really
Exactly.
is all.
Exactly.
I hope I ain't screwing up nobody's mind, but I'm just trying to say that when we deal with these concepts as melanated people, we can't act like we already understand everything. We can't act like we're disconnected from people just because we don't see them. We have to give thanks. I'm grateful every day.
Mm.
You know why I'm grateful every day? I can see. Seeing less and less as I age, but I can see.
Right.
I can speak. I have a beautiful voice that I did not create. You know what I'm saying? There are people who have artistic abilities they came here with. There's a little boy on TikTok today said he's playing it for his papa. He was playing the piano. He said, I'm playing for my papa. I'm not playing for you. I guess he was talking to his mama. And that boy was playing. He couldn't have been no more than 4 or 5 years old.
That's the heart.
So, yes. And I asked a Moorish brother, I guess he was a sheikh. Did they call him sheikhs back then? That was about 60-some years ago. I asked the Moorish brother, can you just sit down at the piano and play? And he started playing. And I said, wow, how long you been playing the piano? He said, from the day I sat down at the piano and started playing. So he was saying to me, it's all in your mind. If you can't play, because you already concede in your mind that you cannot play. If you cannot do anything you say you can't do, how can we say Allah is all, Allah dwells in us as us, but we can't do this?
Right.
Or we can't do that?
We have to move in it.
That's the word right there, like in the water, you have to move in it. So this is also, I'm gonna finalize it. I'm not gonna ever be final, but I'm gonna end this part of it tonight by saying, if you have friends and family who are sick, who are suffering in their body, they're not sick, who is out of balance within their physical body, who have dis-ease, they're not comfortable in their body, especially after they pass a certain age. More and more people are saying that they have grandparents or parents with Alzheimer's or dementia. As a little girl, I never in my life heard those words. Mm-hmm. We didn't have no Alzheimer's or dementia old folks in our family. Everybody had good sense. They knew exactly what they were saying, and they knew exactly what you meant when you was talking too. And sometimes they sit over in the corner chewing tobacco or smoking a cigar, not a cigar, a pipe, and act like they didn't know, won't listen. And then you say something that you contradicting something you said earlier. He said, don't even look at you. Just hold the thing up in there and say, that's not what you said a few minutes ago. So my point about this is, in those days, we didn't send our elders to nursing homes.
That's right.
Or hospices. Matter of fact, most of them died at home in the bed. So I'm just saying that let's live. You already said it, but I just want to come back and reiterate, let's live this idea that we're talking about. Let's live this ideal that we're talking about in the reality that it is. One day I felt it. One day I experienced it. It was something that's hard to put into words. It was the greatest joy. I was at home by myself, and all of a sudden it was like the presence, the fullness, the bigness of what we call Allah. It was everywhere. It was. I laughed. I fell out laughing. I said, "Oh my God, this is what it is. This is what it feels like." This is great. Everybody should feel
Beautiful.
this.
Beautiful.
You know what I mean? So I appreciate y'all for giving me a moment to butt in. This was a
Fantastic.
great lesson. I got notes. The light of the beloved is within you. The lover awakens it within itself. I'm going to use that. Okay. I love y'all. Thank you so much.
Love you
Assalamu
too.
alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam, and thank you for those gems. And you are absolutely correct. The heart is within everything. It's in everything in nature. Nature has a heart. It's the heart of a tree, or the heart of even the heart of the fruit, or the heart of the herbs. Everything in existence has a nature. And we've all known this, as the great Sheikh had just brought forth. This has always been in our cultures and traditions by various different names. Even if we look at what we talked about tonight, with Allah being in the heart of woman and man, the Rastafarians say the I and I.
That's right.
The I that is within I is
Mhm.
the only I.
That's it.
In Islam, we would say that Allah is the only reality. Same
Yes.
thing.
Same thing.
It's the same exact concept.
In
But
the Bible, they say, I am in my Father, and my Father is in me. They never
I and my
discuss
Father are
that.
one. I mean, and the other thing that was just brought up was in respect to women. And Jacob brought that forth about women. And one of the reasons why I'm going to speak to this is because I know and have known quite a few sisters that don't feel comfortable with Islam. And many of them, in their minds, will never even consider being a Muslim because of the way that Islam has been presented to them. Islam more to an extreme, but it's generally that way in all of the Western religions, where you literally have to comb through the scriptures to find a woman of virtue and to see women actualizing Allah through them.
Mhm.
And what I will say is it hasn't always been that way in ancient cultures and societies, but it's that way now. And so part of the correction that needs to take place is that the sisters have to be restored to their place in this whole concept of understanding Allah.
Send them to me. Where are you saying? I thought she was gonna say something for real today.
That's a very, very important point. So yes, you're right on point with that, with respect to making sure that the sisters and the concept of the divine feminine is no longer left out of any type of spiritual system or any understanding of a spiritual system that we are involved in. That has to be changed so that we don't repeat the same mistakes that was repeated before us.
Well, I think that also, in addition to that part, is the understanding that we are in a system of divisiveness, and people make up their own concept of what the source is, of what Allah
Right.
is. Why did He let, like right now, over there and over there, across there? Why they letting? I bet you the Muslims are praying and everything, and some of them are saying, "Why would Allah allow this?
Mhm.
Why is this happening to my people? This ain't happening because Allah is allowing it. It's happening because when you were supposed to been doing one thing, you were doing another. And when the Spirit spoke to you, when Allah spoke to you, even, and it's talking about the Palestinians, I'm talking about both groups. When Allah spoke to either one of them about what should be done, they didn't do it. Because man has this idea of creating a God in its image, in man's image, from how I'm looking at it. This thing about abortions, I use it as an example. You got the Democrats saying, yeah, it's all right. You got the Republicans saying, no, it ain't all right. I'm siding with the Republicans, but I'm not a Republican. I find myself agreeing with Republicans on a few things. I'm saying, oh my God, what done happened? But
What's happening to me?
yeah, what's happening to me? But this is how Shaitan, this is how it works. It makes the right thing seem wrong, and the wrong thing seem right. Same thing with this thing about homosexuality or trans dressing that they call it. And when I speak of these things, I'm speaking of this from life experiences. I have people, friends, family, who have children who they raised up like a girl, but it was a boy. And the boy thinks that it's a girl. And then here comes Auntie Ayaba, boy, you ain't no girl. And I'm gonna tell you how you got like this, from point A to point B. There's some who say, I'm born like this. I say the woman was married with a man, so she stopped producing estrogen. All of those fluids that you're supposed to have when you are making a life, you were limiting them by your own emotions and your own anger. Therefore, it was lack thereof. I got all kinds of theories, but my theories is to me is as worthwhile as the crazy theories that those people are out there saying. So we may be practicing Islam, or we may be Murids, and we may be all of these wonderful, wonderful things, but we still are in this world,
Right.
with these people, and we have thoughts about it, and our thoughts should be so much higher that when we open our mouth to speak, clarity is there for the people, because the people are going over the hill, and our job is to bring the light to them. That's one thing you said earlier too about the light.
Okay. Thank you for making that clearer to us, because we definitely need that, and we definitely need to move in accord with that. Beautiful, beautiful points. And again, most of our problems are as a result of living in this dunya and following the way of the dunya instead of living out of the heart.
Yes.
Living out of the heart space.
I mean.
So our focus from now on will be living out of this higher heart, which is the actual seat of Allah. And Sheikh Sufi does a phenomenal job of leading by example. He's put up a post about traveling and how important it is to travel, because in traveling, you get to see different cultures, you understand different traditions, but you're also able to connect them to the one true source and the one true tradition and custom, which is from us at the beginning. That's one of the advantages of traveling. The other thing that's important in terms of what Sheikh Sufi is doing is he's leading by example. We mentioned earlier about the different Fanah, Fanafi Sheikh, Fanafi Rasul, Fanafi Allah. And Sheikh Sufi said a while ago, which is something that I don't know if many of us ever really considered when we're talking about Allah in the heart of man and woman. Sheikh Sufi said that he died years ago. He died years ago. That's Fanafi Sheikh. So if Sheikh Sufi died years ago, who are we talking to and communicating with?
Fanafi Allah.
Al-Fatiha, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad al-Fatihi lima ublika wa katimi lima sabaka nasir al-haqi bil-haqi wa hadi ila siratika mustaqim wa ala alihi haqqa qadrihi wa miqdarihi al-adi. Allahumma asli ummata Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Allahumma farij and ummati Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Allahumma irham and ummata Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Allahumma asli ummata Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Allahumma farij and ummati Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Allahumma irham and ummata Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Allahumma asli ummata Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Allahumma irham, astaghfirullah. Allahumma farij and ummati Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Allahumma irham and ummata Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. We say that 3 times as given to us by Cheikh Moundbuilder. And we send blessings on our Sheikh, we send blessings on our Darrah, on the Sheikhs, the Imams, the Jurin, the Murids, the families, the guests, everybody that's in earshot of this broadcast and this selection for tonight. We thank everybody for being attentive and listening and for moving forward from this day forward, living from the heart space, living from the womb space, living from the place and the seat of Allah in each and every one of us. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam, Sheikh.
Alaikum
salam.
Walaikum assalam, Cheikh Idris. That was a wonderful presentation.
Alhamdulillah.
My
Yeah.
face was smiling and my heart was smiling. Mostly the whole talk.
I mean,
Thanks. My hair standing up on my arm.
I mean,
to all the sisters, I bear witness. If you sit under Mama Yaba, you will not return the same. So I encourage all of you sisters to have a word with her. She will change your life for the better.
Yeah, oh, you're so sweet. All
Ameen.
praise be to Allah.
I heard Sheikh Moundbuilder say the Rahman, which is feminine, is connected directly to the womb of the woman. I just wanted to speak that out from Sheikh Moundbuilder in the conversation that Cheikh Idris Bar and Sheikh Mama Ayaba Bey had.
That is powerful. Oh my God.
Ameen.
Speaking the stage of Hakikat, you know, we got Shariat, that's the law, Tariqat, that's the pathway, Hakikat, that's when you see the reality of God and all, greater that's within you, within the world. Marifat, gnosis, when we know. That's why some can't see. So to the public out there who listening, keep the practices going. And you'll come, we read about God, or we read about fire. It's different than reading about fire and looking at fire than experiencing fire. Being grounded into the pathway of Tariqat, coming around to Hakikat, reality of truth, that Allah is the only reality behind all that you see. In experience, first-hand basis. I mean, love y'all. Beautiful.
Good, thanks.
Sheikh Sally about to get it started. A whole nother Darrah.
Oh, yes.
Oh,